Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber, and alongside me is Logan Camden. And you already know the drill. We are going to be talking about today's playoff action, starting with the Dallas Mavericks sending the Clippers home, Logan, in Game 6. Very interesting start to this series with the blowout LA win, of course, without Kawhi on the floor, but it ends up being Dallas who pulls through in pretty decisive fashion over these last two games. This is a team that we were both very high on down the stretch of the regular season. How do you feel about them now heading into this next series and going forward as a legit playoff contender?
I feel very good about the Dallas Mavericks as a legit playoff contender. And I want to start by apologizing if you hear some explosions in the background. No,
Explosions.
they're not gunshots. They are fireworks. I'm not going to dox myself. I live outside a baseball stadium. They just won. They're letting off the
Well, I
fireworks
think
right now.
people know that you live in Phoenix.
No, I live actually off the grid, man, completely on a remote island. All we have is a baseball team.
That's cool.
They just won, dude. They let fireworks off after every win. So that is what's going on in the background. But the thing I was most impressed with about Dallas in this series, Carson, was their defensive effort, energy, and the consistency that we got from them on that end, man. They held the Clippers to a defensive rating of 111.8 in this series. Not a crazy, absurd number, but this is a Clippers offense that was one of the best in the regular season. Number 4 overall, 117.9. Obviously, without Kawhi Leonard, so that's going to factor into that number. But all series long, man, PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr. on the perimeter, I thought made life hell on guys like James Harden and Paul George. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively on the interior, man, balled out, got the Mavericks so many extra possessions in this series and protected the rim at an elite level. And I was super impressed with Kyrie Irving, man. They showed the stat in this game, too. He held opposing players to 2 of 18 shooting. Like, this is a dude who's hungry, man, who just wants to win, and he's putting it all out there, man. They ask one of the sideline reporters, too, what do you want to be known for? Kyrie says, I want people to recognize me for my defense, man. And I was super impressed with him all series long. Like, that was the constant for Dallas, man. You know, Kyrie and Luka were, here and there. They both played a really good series, but, it wasn't like, oh, my God, these guys are raining down and making every single shot. And there are portions for sure, but their defense was the constant in this series, man. Their effort on the glass was constant in this series. Now, I think they were able to disrupt the Clippers a little more because this is a primary jump shooting team. So, you can bait them a little more. They're not a team that's going to consistently get downhill as much, but I just want to start with Dallas's defense, man. I was so impressed with the wing athletes, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington, the interior guys, and Kyrie Irving, man. I was worried about it, dude, but down the stretch of this regular season, they were one of the best defenses in basketball, and I thought for the most of this series, man, they played their asses off. I was super impressed with Dallas's defense all series long.
It was definitely the most consistent strength of this team. I do think they still got off to rough starts in games 1 and 4 defensively, but it was significantly worse offensively in those stretches. And that was the vision here, man. The vision was we are going to have our 2 superstar shot creators, and then we are going to put athletes and defensive-minded guys around them on the wings. We are going to get athletic, defensive-minded bigs. And that has just played out beautifully here because this was a super impressive defensive series and a very impressive defensive game. They let go of the rope at the end once they go up 20-something and it gets a little bit closer than it should, but that didn't really matter. And I do want to give props to Kyrie. And Luka also made some really awesome defensive plays in this game. Like, both those guys have such good instincts and hands that when they are engaged, they can have an impact. Luka, it was a very bipolar series defensively, some good moments, some bad moments, but I was really impressed with Kyrie. He gets on the floor for a loose ball. He has that closeout on Norman Powell where he runs him off the line and then he pokes out that ball from behind. He has 2 blocks in this game. And when those guys are defending at a solid level, when they are engaged, when Luka is giving effort there, this defense is awesome because everyone around them is going to bust their ass. Derrick Jones Jr., dude, what a phenomenal perimeter defender. And by the way, he has an impact on the interior when he gets involved there with his length in help. Just an awesome defensive player. PJ Washington had his rough moments where Harden was just too quick and he's guarding him 35 feet out at the end of game 4. But overall in this series, I thought was really quite solid as a perimeter defender. And I think an interior defender as well, again, in help. And then it's the bigs, dude. I thought that this was a really solid game from Lively where even though I don't believe he records a single block, like his rim protection, his value as a deterrent, you absolutely felt. And that's the theme, dude. The interior defense for Dallas, like their ability to run shooters off the line in this game into help, where this Clippers team wants to live behind the three-point line. If you can funnel them in to Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford, that's a win for you. This is coming into this game, but teams were shooting 49% against Dallas inside of 6 feet, Logan, in layup range, 49%. That's a 5% difference from anybody else in the playoff field. And it's a really good formula. So when they are engaged, that is just such an important foundation for this team. And it is a bona fide strength. And then, of course, the other part of the formula is Luka and Kyrie. And I thought that we got really good Luka and Kyrie in this game. Now, Luka ends up bricking some shots down the stretch, so his efficiency looks really rough. It didn't feel that rough throughout the game, and he was so great as a playmaker. I mean, just dissecting them out of pick and roll. And what I really liked is that he again committed more to getting downhill in this game. It was very frustrating how much he was settling through the first 4 games of this series. This game, he has 4 restricted area makes. Last game, he had 5 restricted area makes. That's the Luka Doncic we know and love. That's the Luka who gives himself a higher floor as a scorer, or even when he misses damn near every jumper, because he missed damn near every jumper in this game, he still has a really big offensive impact because he's getting himself efficient looks in the paint, and he's creating better looks for his teammate because he's exerting that downhill pressure. I thought that he was excellent, and Kyrie is playing as well as he ever has. Like, this man is the best number 2 left in the field, and his bottom line numbers in this series aren't ridiculous. Like, the efficiency is crazy, 65% true shooting. He gives you 26.5 a night, but it's just the stretches that you see where when he asserts himself, he looks like damn near the best pure shot maker on the planet, bro. It's just unfathomable what he's done as a pull-up shooter, averaging 19 points per game in second halves. So when you get that version of Kyrie, which they consistently got down the stretch of the regular season, and now, again, it's not that he was a force throughout 4 quarters of every game, but in second halves, he balled out. The only exception being game 5 when they really didn't need him. They had that game on ice already. And then seeing a better version of Luka. This game, because of the inefficiency, like you would still say it's, I guess, below average for a Luka game. I called him excellent earlier. I shouldn't have said that just because of the shooting inefficiency. The playmaking was excellent. I thought he played with a better strategy and mentality. And the last 2 games overall represent a meaningful improvement to me from the Luka who we saw over the first 4, which was concerning. He has to be better as a shot maker. This was a brutal 3-point shooting series from him, but I do believe that variance will swing more in his favor. And I am just so impressed by this formula. I said after game 4, when we were talking about how they would shape up against an OKC team that had just completed a convincing sweep, I had Dallas as my number 2 contender out west before the playoffs, and I picked them over OKC. But I said, Dallas, you have to show me something over these last couple, because the level they'd gotten from Luka, the inconsistency on both sides of the ball just had been underwhelming to me, and they showed us something here. These were 2 dominant games and really reflected what this team looks like when they're locked in. And it's a damn good basketball team.
It's a dominant basketball team. Like, Luka doesn't shoot the ball well whatsoever, but the fact that he was consistently getting downhill and playmaking so much, and the thing that impressed me with Luka and encourages me more to have more confidence in Dallas moving forward too, is his conditioning. Luka didn't look like tired out there, man. For stretches in this series, like, he looked hurt, disinterested, tired. Like, Luka didn't look gassed at all in this one. He looked 100% ready to go, like, locked in. And also, Kyrie too, dude. I think we have to emphasize Kyrie's counting numbers, like you said, may not be that impressive. Bro, I mean, there's slow starts in basically every single game where Kyrie does have these stretches. And that is the factor to me that makes the Mavs so dangerous. Like, the fact that you have Luka Doncic, who, when his jump shot is on, is the number 2 best offensive player in basketball, in my opinion, just behind Jokic. And when it isn't falling, he's still consistent and can get those shots. But when his jumper's off a little bit, or you need that little release valve, it's like, all right, man, Kyrie, take over for a little bit. Just go crazy. And he can do that. No other team just has a guy where you can go, hey, man, for a little bit, can you just take over? Can you just drop me a cool 20 this quarter?
He was their best player this series, Logan. Like, Luka picked it up these last 2 games, but I would say Kyrie was their best player this series. He was unreal.
Anytime they needed him, and I don't have the game off the top of my head. What was that game where he dropped 40 in like 3 quarters, man? Was that last game?
That was game 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like even in a stretch, like Kyrie's having excuse me,
Or
Luka's
no, that
having,
was game 4. That was game
yeah,
4 because Harden ended up pulling through in the clutch, but Kyrie was ridiculous in that game.
Luka's having a nightmare game, and they're about to get dog walked in the second half, and Kyrie says, "You know what? I got this, guys. I'm going to put the team on my back." No other team has a second guy, and we're not calling Kyrie Irving a number 2. He just is a number 2 in the context of this team situation, and he's the best number 2 you could freaking ask for, man. Like, I believe in their formula so much, and like you said, dude, they showed us a ton in these last 2 games. Like, Locked in Dallas is a terrifying team, man, and that's why we had them so high. They were both our number 2 team out west, man. They were, I think they were number 3 for me overall.
Sam.
Yeah, I think they were number 3 for us overall in the field. Dallas is a terrifying draw, man. This is a scary basketball team.
And I will say, Minnesota has passed them in my eyes, but only one team is getting out of that Denver-Minnesota series. And so there's absolutely a very real path to Dallas reaching the Western Conference Finals, as we predicted. OKC is really good. We're going to preview that series in depth tomorrow. I am so excited. But the formula of when they're dialed in, playing like a top 5 defense, because that's the thing, Logan. Like, that was the backbone of these last 2 games being dominant. Ultimately, because it's not like you got great spot up shooting from the supporting cast. They were hovering around 35% from deep in both these games. And I don't think you're going to get great shooting consistently from this supporting cast. That's one of the concerns, is when you force the ball out of Luka and Kyrie's hands. PJ Washington, good in this game. Derrick Jones Jr., overall, I thought better than I expected throughout this series. But the Josh Greens, the Maxi Klebos, all of those guys run hot and cold, and they didn't need those guys to shoot above expectations to still dominate these last 2 games. That's what's so encouraging to me. It's just a hell of a formula, man. Having possibly the best duo on the planet. To me, it's Jokic and Murray because of Jokic's overwhelming value as just clearly the best guy alive. But if you get Lakers Jamal Murray and you get this Kyrie, and then you get the best version of Luka, like that's just dominant offense. And it is so consistent. I do want to give props to some of the role players, though, because I thought that Derek Lively was awesome in this game. I thought that he did everything you could have wanted from him, except maybe make all of his free throws. And that was a concern that I had about him playing in closing stretches. But that's where it's nice that you at least have Gafford. Gafford is a more reliable free throw shooter, but Lively was awesome on the offensive glass. So was Josh Green. So was Gafford. Shout out to all those guys. 18 offensive rebounds in this game for Dallas, I thought was big. They brought that energy from the jump. But also as a short roll decision maker, like he made some nice reads, and he's been tested there in this series. And I would say it's been a mixed bag overall, but also when he was working with a 4-on-3, he was comfortable showing some of that touch finishing. Like if he caught the ball, not at the rim, right? Because there's 2 men on Luka. I thought he had nice touch in this game. And then I thought defensively, again, he was really, really good. PJ Washington, it was a rough offensive series from him overall. There's going to be volatility because he's not consistently a great shooter, but he's always willing to take those shots, man. That's the one thing that you always got to give PJ props for. He will take 15 shots in any game, and he steps up and he knocks down half of his threes in this one. That was valuable. Josh Green, that energy is just phenomenal. And again, he won them some extra possessions in this game. So this is a Dallas team that I was waiting for. Throughout the first 4 games, I was underwhelmed. I picked this team to beat the Clippers in 6 with Kawhi on the floor. And without Kawhi on the floor and with Kawhi looking nothing like himself, they were split even between 4 games. This is the team that I believe in as being one of the most dangerous out west. And I'm very, very encouraged by how they finished this series so strong.
Last thing I want to add about them on the glass, dude, there was this one possession too where I don't know how it happens. There's a ball that comes off the left side of the iron on the baseline. It's Derrick Jones Jr. and Paul George in the corner. And somehow, I don't know, like Paul George is boxing Derrick Jones Jr. out, and he still manages to come up with the board. Like he is completely in front of DJ, and he comes up with it, turns it into a 3-pointer,
Yeah.
I think, for Dallas on the back end. Like that kind of relentless effort, man, it's gonna change a series, dude. And I thought the Clippers were at a significant lack of like just good wings, man, and athleticism. Like Dallas just had such a drastic advantage in that series, every single game.
And they always have options, bro. You want to play Maxi Kleba 30 minutes? Great. You want to play him 5 minutes? That works too. You can go with the 2 traditional 5 looks, or you can go with the small ball Maxi at the 5. You can play Josh Green 25, 30 minutes. You can play Derrick Jones Jr. 30 plus minutes. And he's really deserving of a shout out, dude. 9 blocks in this series, 62% true shooting. I was worried about him offensively. He knocked down his catch and shoot jumpers. He attacked closeouts well, and he ran the floor hard in transition. He catches that ridiculous lob from Luka in this game. That man can just climb up and grab anything. Literally some of the craziest bounce in league history. Shout out to all those guys. I said they had to show me something, and they showed me something. And I'm just so excited for the second round out west, dude. All 4 of those teams are awesome. Those to me are 4 of the top 5 teams in the league. Like, shout out to the Knicks, but I just think everybody out west is more stacked. And I am so pumped to watch that play out. On the flip side of this, Logan, though, of course, the LA Clippers are sent home packing, as they have been, unfortunately, every year of the Kawhi PG era. This is 5 seasons. They have finished 1 year with both of those stars healthy. They have made 1 conference finals, and Kawhi wasn't on the floor for that series. And when you consider the hype and when you consider the basketball talent that they've had on the floor, there's really nothing to feel but disappointment. What do you take away from yet another early playoff exit for them?
It might be time to ring the alarm bell on the Clippers, Carson. Like, I'm going to state the obvious. Like, the Clippers need their stars to be healthy, right? And you need your stars to play up to expectation. Kawhi is not healthy in this series. Harden gives you, 21-8 on 46-41 splits. Honestly, Harden was probably the best Clipper in this series. Like, Harden played better than anybody else and way above my expectations. I called the man washed. Like, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't consistent, but hey, I'd rather take volatile James Harden than dud James Harden. Paul George puts up a dud in this series, man. Sub 20 points per game, 6 boards, 5 assists on 43% from the field and 41% from behind the arc. Like, every shot inside the arc was just hard for LA, man. Like, when you got this kind of length and athleticism from Dallas and these bigs that can go out on the perimeter and are agile, and these long dudes, like, they can really the Dallas can blow shit up. Like, it's just what they're capable of. I mean, but when I say we need to ring the alarm bell, man, the Clips aren't getting any younger, dude. This is an old team. You got contracts coming up. Kawhi next season is going to be 33, and you owe this man $50 million through 2027. He consistently has been unavailable when you need him on the floor. Ring the alarm. PG, 35 years old next year, has a $48 million player option. Now, I think PG would be fooled if he didn't opt into that, but there comes a question on, because I just don't know if he's going to get that kind of money. Do you think he maybe gets that kind of money per year?
I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of teams that want PG, man. A lot of teams that want a versatile defensive wing, one of the best off-ball stars in the league, lethal three-point shooter, had just his most efficient season ever this year. That's a very attractive star fit for any team. He just fits so seamlessly. And there's a lot of teams that want that one guy to put them over the edge. So I will definitely expect some real Paul George intrigue on the open market this year.
But it's a big question mark. And that's also why I say maybe we need to ring the alarm bell. He's got the option to leave, but also if he opts into it, he could just say, hey, Clips, I don't want to be here anymore. Deal me. Let's get a deal done. That's on the table. James Harden is going to be 35 as well, and his contract is expiring. Now, I asked, can you afford to lose Harden? Like, they gave up 2 first-round picks. They gave up another first-round pick swap, 2 second-round picks, some wing depth and stuff like that. But I don't think you can lose Harden at this time. Like, this dude was the best player for you in this series. Like, I think you got to bring Harden back. So you're left with, just a pretty lackluster bench. Like, I don't really know what the Clippers do to get better, Carson. I mean, pray for health? I mean, like, that's what we're left with, is because we haven't seen this team ever fully healthy in the playoffs. And yet it doesn't seem like there's any higher ceiling, right? Like, I don't know. The biggest quotient to me, man, is what they do with Paul George. But I don't really see an upside. Everybody else in the West is getting better, and they're significantly younger. The Denver Nuggets are the best team out West. They're not going anywhere. The Minnesota Timberwolves are ascending currently. They have Anthony Edwards, who I only presume is going to get even better and more consistent. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the youngest team in the playoff field, and they were the freaking number 1 seed. They're not going anywhere. Dallas has one of the best duos in basketball, and like outside of just wishing and praying and I don't know, man, hoping that Kawhi Leonard is going to be out there, I don't know what you do, man. You're not getting any better. And you got a new building and you got a lot of seats to fill,
Yeah.
man. I don't know what the Clippers should do, man. The bottom line to me is I don't know how they get better. I don't think they can get better.
There's absolutely nothing surprising about this outcome, though. The writing was on the wall from the moment that they made the Harden trade. But before that, like, this was how I predicted this season would end. Now, I didn't expect Kawhi to be healthy, but when they made the Harden trade, I was like, all right, cool. So they're slightly better. They're like the fifth best team out west. And I do think that they could have been better than that with Kawhi on the floor. But Logan, Kawhi hasn't finished any of the last 4 seasons. You cannot expect Kawhi to be on the floor. And that sucks. That sucks because he is a top 8 player when healthy, and he is one of the best playoff performers that we have seen over the last decade. But there is no reason to expect, oh, things will work out when Kawhi is healthy. That's not how it works. The guy is unfortunately almost never healthy at the end of the season. And so you're just in this really tough spot because ultimately your star duo regressed to a point where it was like, okay, just Kawhi and PG and shooters isn't going to be enough. And maybe it was never going to be enough. Maybe that was never the formula. But once those role players started regressing, right? And it's like, okay, bye, Marcus Morris. You're not really playable anymore. Although he did start in a playoff game today, but that didn't go all that well. Nick Batum, they move off of. There was just never a contending ceiling for this team at this stage. So if you want to go all in still and say, well, we're screwed. We've given up all our assets. We might as well add James Harden and see if that makes us better in a bigger threat out west. I'm okay with that because, Logan, sometimes we act like there are perfect roster building solutions. And oftentimes there just aren't. And oftentimes you're on an already sinking ship and then you just lean in further. But once you've leaned in further, well, what are you going to do now? There's no way out, right? Once you've already dealt all of your first round picks through 2029, what is there to do? You can't trade Kawhi Leonard. As awesome as he is, his trade value is going to be a fraction of what he would be worth for just one healthy playoff run for you. Might as well hold out hope. PG, I do think has some value on the open market, but not nearly what he had 5 years ago when you traded SGA and a wealth of picks for him. James Harden has probably very little value on the open market. What Philly got for him was solid. You're not getting that back if you trade him again. So that's why I think they just have to ride it out. I don't really see another option. They have no future assets. They just don't have control of their own picks. And so you see how good you can be. And you pray that somehow maybe one year you're healthy and somebody else gets hurt and you strike gold. I don't think that's realistic. I just think it's better to be a competitive, good basketball team for the next few years with big stars in a new arena and have no future assets than it is to be bad and have very poor future assets because you're not recouping anything close to what you've already given up, man. So you might as well just lean in here. Lean in and stay good. But yeah, the issues are just on full display here. And it's the volatility of both James Harden and PG that is so devastating at this stage in their career. It's the fact that neither of these guys can pressure the rim. Forget consistently, dude. Harden, I don't know how many he finished with. He had 2 restricted area makes through 4 games, and that's when he was awesome. But the degree of difficulty that these pull-up jumpers and these floaters require, like, you just don't have a consistent floor. It's what we saw last year. It's what we see this year. He goes 7 of 28 over his last 2 games. PG has 3 games where he scores under 20 on 35% shooting or worse. I don't think that's a guy who can be the number 2 on a title team right now. I don't know. Not the Clippers at the very least, or they would need Kawhi to be exceptional and Harden to be exceptional. Like, you're just having to check a lot of boxes. Harden, I do think, can be a legit number 3. I don't think he can be your number 1, which is what they asked him to be in this playoff run. So when Kawhi is not healthy, of course, it's a disastrous formula. Even when Kawhi is healthy, like, you can't rely on old dudes making jumpers as your whole offense, as your entire creation from your stars. That was their downfall in the 2 postseasons when they were legitimately really good, 2020 and 2021. It was when they win, it's because they're shooting 40+% from deep. When they lose, it's because they're missing their pull-up and spot-up jumpers, and they don't have a counter to that. In this series, Logan, in their 2 wins, they went 36 of 65 from 3, shooting damn near 60% from 3. In their 4 losses, they go 35 of 125. Bad shooting nights. Like that single-handedly swings the pendulum. And teams that are so overly reliant on pull-up shooting very rarely succeed in the postseason in the NBA. So that's the reality here. You also just can't turn to PJ Tucker and Russ as your impact role players, man. You just can't do it in the year 2024. Russ in this series, 6 points per game on 34% true shooting, Logan. He had a couple nice cuts in this game. Hooray. I thought he played well defensively overall throughout this series. Hooray. But that is just horrific offense. So even though I like a Terrence Mann and I like the spark that you get from Norman Powell, and I'm fine with Amir Coffey, it's just not enough.
It's not enough. I think you're right, Carson. I think they got to steer into the skid, man. You got to full bore, full tilt, man. Get what you can out of these guys, man, until they're gone. Like, and what I mentioned earlier, dude, about about LA just being at such of a lack of quality athletic wings. You hit on a key point with Dallas's roster construction. They just have versatility on the wings around these guys, right? You want a lot of athletic defensive play finishers around Luka? All right, we got those. Do you want some guys that bring some shooting and playmaking spark? Okay, we got those. You know what I mean? There's versatility. There's different lineup combinations. And when the Clips dealt, obviously a marginal part of the deal, you deal away guys like Robert Covington and Nick Batum. I'm not saying they swing this series, but they'd be some damn good role players to have in certain spots. Like, I'm rather playing those guys than PJ Tucker and Russ, man.
Yeah.
And so looking forward, like, yeah, they do have some guys that I like. I like Terrence Mann. I like Norman Powell. But you got to go out and you got to find as many versatile athletic wings that you can put in with these guys is possible, in my opinion, dude. Just, yeah, more multifaceted guys. And let me be clear about this too. Whatever, like you said earlier, dude, there's no perfect way to put this thing together. Whatever the Clippers do in this offseason is not going to be enough for them to leapfrog any of these elite contenders. Any of these 4 teams left in the field, it doesn't matter what the Clips do this offseason. It's not going to be enough to get better than those teams. And so let me ask you this, Carson. You know, I do think they need versatility. Like, they just need more role players that do different things, that check different boxes. This guy can really defend and finish. This guy can really shoot and defend. This guy can play make a little bit, right? They just need a little bit of different archetypes. Do you go out and just get a bunch of shooters and maybe a floor space and 5 and lean even more into that jump shooting formula and hope you can shoot a team to death in the playoffs?
Well, here's the reality. You can't add better role players, meaningfully better role players than what you have right now if you build around Kawhi, PG, and James Harden. So then you can either let Harden or PG walk, or you understand that you are just relying on that big 3 and you're going to have solid role players, passable role players alongside him. Shout out to Big Zoo. I think that guy is legitimately just really good, was pretty consistently good throughout the series, protects the rim, awesome finisher on the interior. I wouldn't want to let Paul George walk because I don't think you can trust James Harden at all as your number 2 if you want to win the title. I also don't know that you can trust Paul George to be your number 2 at this stage in his career without James Harden capable of stepping up on any off night. Like, I just don't know that Kawhi and then one spotty, volatile number 2 and then good role players is enough at this stage. Like, that's the thing, Logan. These guys are 34, 32 years old. The window to just say, all right, let's put together our title-winning team is probably just closed. And now let's be a good basketball team. And I think that the best version of this basketball team probably does have all 3 of these guys on the floor, where when they're engaged defensively, they can defend at a relatively high level, and you just have a bunch of shot creation and shot making. That's the team that went 26-6 in a stretch. I'm not saying I would ever expect them to win the title, but I do think that gives them their best chance, and they just aren't in a position where they can think in any other terms. There's no rebuild here. Like, they're already all in, and that's the lesson from this. That's the lesson from the Suns. Maybe don't trade your next decade of draft picks, especially when it's for aging or injury-prone stars, because you reach this point where it's like, okay, we're good. That's cool. But what are we going to be in 2029? Like, we're just destined to pay for these guys who ultimately didn't bring us the ultimate goal of this sport.
Well, I mean, that's the dilemma with Paul George. If you let him walk, you basically sacrificed all those draft picks and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who is one of the best players on planet Earth for 4 good years, but where you didn't accomplish anything. This was the PG deal was the one that was supposed to put the Clips over the top. And then when they got Harden, it was like, all right, well, we're going to another level. I think it's over.
But more than anything, man. Logan, more than anything, the costly decision was signing Kawhi Leonard. That's the thing. The guy has finished 1 of 5 seasons in LA. And boy, it'd be tough to have told anybody in that 2019 offseason, don't sign Kawhi Leonard, who was an undeniable top 3 player on the planet and just had an outstanding individual postseason run to a title. That would have been a tough case to make, especially for a franchise like the Clippers, who, boy, they just wanted star power, and I respect them going all in for that. But that's the single thing that has destroyed this era the most. We haven't even gotten to see them in these playoff environments twice, Logan. We have not seen 2 healthy postseasons, and that falls on Kawhi. And that sucks. He doesn't control his body, but that's just the reality here. I do have the stats on the restricted area attempts for James Harden and PG. PG in this series, 6 of 12 in the restricted area. You felt that, man. It felt like every time that he got down there, he was either getting blocked or he was hesitating and he was kicking out. Like, he was not scoring around the rim. James Harden, 2 of 8 in the restricted area over a postseason, dude. Over a series in which he attempts 73 shots. Like, I'm sorry. You just can't rely on those guys night after night. It's just too unpredictable. It's too volatile. They're too dependent on the tough shot making. So it's another really unfortunate end to this season for the Clips. And they can walk through whatever hypotheticals they want. Oh, if Kawhi was healthy, and you can't say necessarily that they're wrong, right? With Kawhi healthy, of course, the Clippers at the very least have a much better chance to win the series. They'd be a much better basketball team, but he wasn't. And unfortunately, he never is.
I mean, he was both top 10 for us in the player rankings. I mean, I think definitively, considering that, I don't know if I can have Kawhi Leonard top 10 anymore, man, just because of availability concerns.
Well,
when he's on the court, Carson, yeah. What's the best ability, man?
Availability, Mr. Camden.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so they taught us at ASU, man. That was like some first day stuff. Show up to class. Like,
well, when I make that list, I'm just thinking, how good are you when you're on the court? Otherwise, Kawhi would never be in my top 10.
True. I mean, it's ridiculous the level that Kawhi Leonard is at when he is healthy. And I don't want to undersell that fact. Like, he is you could argue he's a top 5 player on the planet. Like, that is an easy argument. He is such an elite scorer. He is so freaking strong. He is bona fide unstoppable when he's healthy. And he just never is. It's a sad reality, man. The Clippers have a lot of questions to answer this offseason, man. And I don't think any of them are going to be the correct one.
Real quick, let's just address a couple of those questions. Is Paul George on this team next year? What's your gut feeling?
Yeah. I am going balls to the walls if I'm the Clippers, man. I'm doing whatever I can to bring him back.
I would try to retain him. My concern is more, what if a team like the Sixers swoop in? What if somebody else who opens up some cap? And if I'm PG, I know this Clippers team is going to be good. I doubt we're going to win the title. If I could be a number 3 option, oh boy, PG is a number 3. Oh Lord, there's never been a better third option in the history of the league. That would be the dream for him at this stage. If he has an off night, nobody really notices. He can impact the game with his defense. And when he's going, he's going. That to me would be the concern. I do think LA should try to retain him just because, again, you're not building a contending team around just Kawhi and James Harden. Harden's too inconsistent. Is Ty Lue back with this team?
Unless he wants the Lakers job.
Yeah, I don't know why he would. I don't know. This job to me seems safer. I think Ballmer loves him.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Clippers. The expectations are always going to be lower no matter who you have. You go to the Lakers, immediately you're the scapegoat for everything. I just think he's safer here.
Yeah, and he's a great coach. Like, Ty Lue is an awesome head coach, man.
So good.
I think they run it back. I mean, because they got to.
Except he started PJ Tucker tonight.
Well, yeah, which Yeah.
But to be fair, he's been starting Amir Coffey, but Amir Coffey is better than PJ Tucker.
I think you got to bring those guys back, man. I don't think there's any other option.
Agreed, which is in some ways just devastating because you feel like you know what the ceiling is. You can talk yourself into the 26-6 stretch, but again, what's the probability that all the pieces are healthy and in place when it comes down to the most important time of the year? That's the defining thing of this Clippers era. They won at a 56 win pace with PG and Kawhi on the floor, and they were just never on the floor when it mattered most together. Bummer. All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to talk a little Cavs Magic, the other game of the day, which was really fantastic, after some quick words from DraftKings. The 82-game preseason is in the books, and it's finally time for the real season. Don't miss out on any of the NBA playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in tournament through the finals, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code NERDS only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Now, I'm seeing some discourse in the chat about Drake having a daughter. We are going to get there. We're going to talk Cavs Magic first, but then we'll talk a little Drake Kendrick at the end because, oh my goodness, that is just madness. But this game was madness too, Logan. And backs against the wall, the Orlando Magic clutch out a win on their home floor. Home team has won every game in this series. We're going to game 7. How do you feel about Orlando after this game?
Played a song, man. Played a song.
On stream, we'll get copyright claimed.
No, abort mission. Never mind. Man, that song does fire me up, though, man. For Orlando, big showing for the young core, man. Like Paolo, Franz, and Suggs. They look really good tonight. And Paolo, man, I want to start with him. Dude, he is one of the toughest buckets. Like, if I need a tough shot made, Paolo is on my short list of guys I want shooting it. It's weird
ridiculous
because he'll clang a catch and shoot jumper that's wide open at the 3. But, man, if I need that turnaround elbow midi, Paolo's banging that dude. And when he's one of those guys that I just feel like when he gets in a rhythm, man, those are shots that are kind of unaffectable and unstoppable. And when you can get all 3 of these guys on like this, Orlando's real, like offensively, right? We always know what we're going to get out of this team defensively. They are stout. They are strong. They are long. They are physical. Orlando's going to make you work. That's their identity. But offensively, they are inconsistent perpetually, right? Paolo can have an off night shooting from the field. Franz can have an off night shooting from the field. Jalen Suggs, most nights you're just hoping he hits the broadside of a barn. Tonight, he was doing his thing. And to me, Suggs is the guy that unlocks the ceiling for this team long term. I love Jalen Suggs when he came out of the draft. Did I compare him to Derrick Rose? Yes. Was that foolish? Yes. But
you were an excited young man.
I'm mad. Dude, I was fired up on Jalen Suggs.
And you were in love. People do crazy things when they're in love.
And he had a bunch of big shots in that tournament. I loved Suggsy, man. The one thing I was right on Suggsy is that motor and that energy that he brings night to night. Like when you come on defensively on the glass, Suggs never turns it off. But when you can get this kind of night from him offensively, Orlando's scary. Like he shoots super well from behind the arc, man. He bangs 6 threes in this one, 6 of 13, 6 threes that Orlando desperately needed in this game, man. That's what's so frustrating about Orlando. And one thing that I really hope they address this season is just getting other guys that can spot up more competently. Franz and Paolo generate so many good looks for these guys. If it's Wendell Carter Jr., if it's Jonathan Isaac, like these big men that sink out. And there's so many guys that just can't hit them. Like I just want more guys that are pure shooters that can capitalize on all the good looks that Franz and Paolo generate for them. I feel like there's a lot of offense that is being left on the table for Orlando consistently. And so you need a performance like this where nobody else is hitting their shots. You need Suggs to come through. And he did, man. Wendell Carter goes 1 of 7 from behind the arc. Sure, he can space the floor more than he could in Chicago, man, but he still can't shoot. You need this. You need somebody to step up, and you need to shoot from behind the arc because Orlando's going to generate those looks. In Cleveland, which I didn't think was smart, Cleveland kind of let them just shoot. They said, okay, we're just going to let Orlando chuck them up if they want to. And they couldn't get anything going offensively. But finally, Carson, in this weird, grimy, nasty Cleveland-Orlando series that we got, we finally see Orlando's offense come together a little bit with this big three, for lack of a better term. Paolo, Franz, and Suggs all do their thing, man. And that to me is the most encouraging thing, is that finally we saw Suggs step his game up a little bit and bang some shots.
Well, I want to give Suggs credit because in their wins, he has been really good. And obviously, their other 2 wins in Orlando were just absolute blowouts. But across those 3 games, he's averaging over 19 a night. He is, I believe, 11 of 23 from deep. Like, he has stepped up when they've needed it. Of course, he's been inconsistent and he's not going to be valuable as a creator. But like you said, they just need dudes who can knock down spot up jumpers. And that has been a theme of this series, just who can be competent shooting the basketball from beyond the arc. I will also say, let's not say that Wendell Carter Jr. can't shoot it. He hasn't had a very good series.
Oh no, sorry.
I mean,
My bad. I meant to say he has improved. He's a good, like, no. Wendell can space the floor. Yeah, like he can. But he's going to have
taking his middies in this game.
Yeah, but he's going to have his games like this.
Yeah, for sure. He's not consistent. That's the problem. All these guys are inconsistent. Isaac is inconsistent. Even Suggs is inconsistent. But this is just so encouraging to me. And it's really about Franz and Paolo. And obviously, Orlando wants to win game 7. Duh. And I think they have a very real chance to do so. But I would come away from this series with a positive outlook, even more confident in the future of this team than I was coming into it. Because those 2 dudes stepped up, and just as this series has gone on, they've only gotten better and better. Paolo is averaging 25, 7, and 4 on 56% true shooting. Over his last 4 games, only averaging 3 turnovers a night after that was brutal over the first 2 as a passer. His ball handling, he was too loose with it. He was forecasting his reads, like just really struggling in those first couple playoff games against a really good defense. He's been better. He's played cleaner since then. And you mentioned the shot making, Logan. Paolo's always been a really impressive, difficult shot maker, but because his shot diet is so hard, because he does settle for these tough shots so much, it's generally made him a pretty inefficient scorer. In this series, he is shooting almost 60% from mid-range. He is 22 of 37 from mid-range. He was 40% in the regular season. Now, I do think there's reasons that his shot making translates. He is big as hell and he is strong as hell. So he can impose himself and he can get to those turnarounds. He can shoot over smaller defenders. But still, these are tough shots that he is making at a ridiculous clip. A clip that we would not normally expect him to make these shots at. But whatever, dude. He's balled out. And in Orlando's wins, like games 3, game 5, even though they didn't win, he was phenomenal. And in this game, I thought that he was really good again. So he's just gotten better. 39% from deep as well. It's just phenomenal jump shooting. And then Franz is giving you 21, 7, and 4 on 60% true shooting. And he's done that even without great shooting from beyond the arc, where he's had a really rough year. He's just getting to that paint and he's getting to the line. I've always loved Franz, and I feel like he has gotten overshadowed by Paolo. Like last year, he was just clearly their best player because of the defensive impact, because of the efficiency, because of the playmaking. Paolo was still figuring a lot of things out. He still is, but it was more dramatic when he was a rookie. The flaws were more obvious, but he was the face. But like Franz was already so great and so clearly a future star. And he didn't get off to the best start to this series, but then game 4, he was ridiculous. This game, he was really good again. And those bottom line numbers are really impressive. I just love everything about him as a driver, the pace, the body control, the footwork. He is one of the best Euro steps in the league, but on those spins, like he is just always playing at his own pace. He gets where he wants in and around the paint, and then his touch is good. He has such great length as a finisher. One of the best transition scorers in the league as well, but has been so good out of pick and roll in this series. They're both legit playmakers. They were both unafraid of going into Evan Mobley's body in this game, and Mobley has been awesome as a rim protector, but they don't fear that physicality. They're big physical wings who can get downhill. Paolo, maybe I wish was more consistent with it, but they both have that ability. And again, they can feed their teammates off of that. And they are 21 and 22 years old, dude. They are only the second duo of teammates 22 or younger ever to average 20 points per game in the same postseason, joining KD and Russ. Pretty damn good company, dude. And they've done that while they're both improving their efficiency compared to the regular season against a top 7 defense. Now, it hasn't been quite as imposing a defense without Jared Allen on the floor, because that guy's just awesome and he can hang with these dudes because he moves so well in space and he's so strong. And he's also obviously a great rim protector, but it's still a good team defense, even without Allen on the floor. Definitely not the same, but still a good defense. And these guys haven't been super consistent, but they've just improved. They've gotten more comfortable. They've done this with limited spot up shooting and no real other creators. I'm super impressed. The standard can't be Paolo and Franz go out there and play like an established star tandem every night. They're 21 and 22, and they have been clearly two of the three best players in the series, and they have now put their team in a position where they can advance past the first round. Cleveland is flawed. Cleveland is hurt with Jared Allen. That just really rarely happens. It's very, very rare, and it's so impressive from these two.
It's so impressive, and the hardest thing in team building is finding your number one and your number two. Guess what? Orlando doesn't have to do that. They got them, and they're babies. Like, I mean, that's the beauty is you can take the conglomerate of assets that you have off of the bench, and if that star comes available, like the Magic are ready to pull that trigger. I think they need a little more offensive creation, Carson, like another guy who can get them tough buckets, who can knock down spot-up jumpers,
100%.
and alleviate the pressure off these guys. But they've got the defensive foundation, and they got the number one and the number two. And I've always said it. I know Paolo's numbers from the regular season won't back it up. He's a great shooter, man. He is a legitimately great shooter. I believe in him. And Franz,
great. Logan, we must be careful with our adjectives.
Shooter. I think
he's
Paolo
having
is
a great shooting series. He's having a great shooting series. I would say he is a good shooter who, yes, his percentages sell him short, but it's tough for anybody to be a great shooter when they're shooting 39% in the paint outside the restricted area, 40% on mid-range, 35, 36% from deep. He's having a great shooting series. He's playing out of his mind as a jump shooter, but there's only so many great shooters.
I think he's one of them. I like Paolo, man. I think he's a beast. Franz.
I like Paolo a lot.
And that's the encouraging thing, though, is like you mentioned, man, the physical traits with Paolo, too. When the jumper isn't falling, he's got a counter. You know what I mean? He can put his head down and get to the bucket. The other area I was really impressed with on these guys was their defense. Franz and Paolo, too, man. Like, this is a great team defense. They all heart, all energy, all effort. And big credit to the guys on the inside, too, John Isaac, Wendell Carter. The guy that stuck out to me was Paolo. Like, Paolo was getting down and
good Paolo
dirty.
Defensive game.
He was getting dirty. It is hard. And he's a big dude, right? 6'10", 250. He's a big guy, but he was banging down low in this series, man, or in this game specifically. Like, when guys were coming up with shots and he was down there, man, he was rotating and defending shots. Like, I love this all-around game from him. And luckily for them, man, they eke it out. It also comes with a comically bad Cleveland offensive performance from the surrounding pieces, and it's pretty clear that they don't have any answer for Donovan Mitchell, hobbled or not. But the two young guys balled out. Suggs pulled his weight offensively, and the defense did enough, man. It's a good, hard-fought win, and they stay alive, man. Like, I picked Orlando in the series. Dude, after the first two games, I was ready to write them off. I would never flip on my pick. You know, I'm going to stick solid, and I've stuck with Orlando through it. But I had kind of given up hope after those first two games.
I thought going in, I'd be very surprised if Orlando wins. After the first two games, I said I would be shocked. And here they are with a very real chance to do it. And they absolutely need a legit high-end offensive guard when we're looking long-term. But I've been saying since last year, they have two future top 20 players on their roster. I think Franz is that good. And I'm not as high on Paolo as some people are because I think there's an aesthetic to his game and the athleticism and the tough shot making. And sometimes people can overlook some of the inconsistencies and imperfections just because of aura and whatnot. But I do think he's clearly an all NBA guy. I think he's probably going to be like a fringe top 10 kind of guy in the league. And that's a great spot to be in because Suggs is also, like, I would say, a pretty core piece here. It would take a lot for me to move off of Suggs just to have one of the best point of attack defenders in the league and a guy who has been so good shooting the ball this year. It would take a lot, man, but they do need that offensive guard long-term. But for now, this is just an awesome series. Also, I want to give some light props to Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz because the guard play has been really rough throughout this series. In this game, I thought they both gave some solid minutes and a little bit of offensive pop at the very least that this team has not really gotten from them. On the flip side of this, Logan, the Cavs waste a special Donovan Mitchell game. He gives you 50. He gives you 18 of their 18 points in the fourth quarter, and they still lose. What do you take away from that?
The man needs help. Can we get the man some help? Yeah, I mean, they just leave him hanging in this game. You mentioned it, a 50 piece. He scores all of their fourth quarter points, and this is without Jared Allen. I mean, Evan Mobley just has to improve as an offensive player, man. He's got to give me something, anything, man. Evidenced by the last second layup, man, where I'm like, okay, Mobley clangs it off the front iron where I'm sitting there going, hey, man, get it above the rim and just put it in there with your big ass, or just go dunk it, Evan. You're huge. Like, his game is so frustrating, man. He's like Bambi. He's just uncoordinated. He has his moments, man. He has his moments.
Defensively, he's so agile. Like, it's his upper body that's uncoordinated.
That's what doesn't make sense. He's such a good mover, and he's so he is coordinated defensively, and then you get him out there, and he's like a deer on skates. I don't get it. And then I'm not going to let Garland off the hook. I thought Garland played better than he has during this series. Garland gives you 21, 7, and 5 on 10 of 17 shooting, 1 of 4 from behind the arc. But in the fourth quarter, takes one shot, has 3 turnovers, and it wasn't just the turnovers. There was a bad one in this game where he like dribbles it off himself, but there's also another missed layup late in this game where he gets all the way downhill and just airmails the layup. Like, he rolls it off the backboard, doesn't even hit rim. Like, Garland's got to be better in the clutch too, man.
He cost them the game. He cost them a chance to win the game at the very least.
Yeah, and it just sucks that you waste this game, man. Donovan Mitchell, not on full strength. Like, at a point in this game, he heads back to the locker room. Like, his knee is clearly hampering him. Nobody can hold him. He's getting by everybody. He is killing Orlando in the pick and roll, like, devastating them. And, like, Carson, this guy, I couldn't believe these numbers. Carson, he has 4 career 50-point games now. 1 in the regular season and 3 in the playoffs. That's a real sample size.
Like that.
Carson, there's only 50 50-point playoff games in NBA history. Donovan Mitchell has 3 of them.
Crazy.
He has tied third the most 50-point games in playoff history. He's just behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain, and he's tied with Allen Iverson for third place. That is rare freaking company, man, and I tweeted this one out. He's one of 2 players with a 50-point playoff game in which his own team scores under 100 points. It's Donovan Mitchell, and then Allen Iverson did it twice. For context, too, Allen Iverson's team won both of those games. Like, I just feel bad for the guy. He gets over 30 points in the paint in this game. It's the most. They
36.
Flash 36 is what he ends with. This is what they flash up on the broadcast. It's the most by a guard in the paint in 25 years with Kobe. Like, Donovan Mitchell was just one of the best pure scorers in basketball, and there's only a few guys like this in the NBA who can go off like this. He's one of them, and I just feel like he's so limited by this offensive supporting cast, Carson. Like, with this, give the guy some shooting, a guy that he can reliably kick the ball out to, and, he'll weaponize his playmaking more. Like, I know Mitchell gets his tunnel vision. That's, one of his things as a player. It's what makes him this great scorer, but also, I don't blame the guy. I'm not passing the freaking ball to any of you guys. Like, nobody else can get a bucket. I just feel bad for him, man. I feel bad that his supporting cast played like this, that he has nobody else to turn to, and that, again, what is so remarkable about this, that he is not at 100%, and he's still unstoppable. Nobody on the court can hold him.
This was maybe my favorite Donovan Mitchell playoff game, because every other explosion has been largely on the back of, I'm going to take 12 pull-up threes. I'm going to make 6 or 7 of them. That's how we're going to go crazy. That's what happened in 2020 and 2021 when he's averaging 30 plus. He is shooting ridiculously from beyond the arc. But what he's always had to complement that is the special downhill pressure, the athleticism, and the footwork, and the body control, and the touch, and the paint. And that carries him in this one, because he hasn't shot well all series. In the last 2 postseasons, what happened? He didn't make his pull-up threes, and he shot his teams out of games, basically, because he's taking 10 to 12 of those looks, and he's making 25% of them. He's shooting 25% from deep in this series, and I want to be clear, hasn't been consistently very good. Game 1, start of game 2, he was, but there's been a lot of rough moments because the jumper isn't falling, and because I do think the knee has affected him, but he just made it so that jump shooting volatility didn't matter. He got into the paint every possession that he wanted to. 36 points in the paint, Logan, is unfathomable. And he's just such a beautiful driver, dude. Like the wide variety of moves that he can hit you with. He hits you with that swim move. He can hit you with the Euro. He can spin. We know that he is like the king of splitting doubles. Like the handle and the athleticism and the artistry is just outstanding. And the floater touch amidst all that length that Orlando has. They started 4 guys 6'10" or taller today. He's 14 of 20 on floaters this series. With the knee, I'm just not sure that he has another performance like that in him, dude. Even if they advance the next round, like that was special Donovan Mitchell in a vacuum. And when you consider what he's looked like this series, it's extra special. And that's where it's just devastating to me that they let him down. And I saw some criticism for him shooting every possession down in the fourth quarter. Look, man, he was 8 of 13 in the fourth quarter. Nobody else could do anything. Even if you knew Donovan Mitchell was driving downhill and he was going to put up that floater, even if you knew he was going to come down and shoot a tough pull-up 3, it was still better than anything anybody else was giving you. Like last year, I was legitimately frustrated at times with just how much he got sucked into that tunnel vision. This game is not an example. He did everything, and he is your offensive foundation. And there's been a lot of scapegoating of him, saying that he stunted Darius Garland, calling him just a shot chucker. Yes, there is a lower floor with him, but there's also a really high ceiling. When we're talking to guys who are on the comparable level, and you see the ceiling in this game, and Garland had it going for a stretch of this game as he did last game, but he's still been so streaky. And the mental errors, dude, he commits an 8-second violation when there's no ball pressure in the last 3 minutes of, I believe it was a 3-point game at that point. Maybe it was a 5-point game. You just can't do that. You have a teammate who is putting you on his back, carrying you, and you just commit the most inexcusable mental error that there is. He has a defensive rebound in his hands, and he lets Jonathan Isaac just rip it away. Like, I've been so disappointed by Garland because he hasn't been good offensively compared to his standards, and it's been a rough season. But the mental shit like that, it's just like, bro, if I were Donovan Mitchell, I would be so pissed at you. And then Mobley was amazing defensively, I thought. He has 5 sensational blocks in this game, and in this series has just been so good as a rim protector. He switched on to Paolo in the closing stretch of last game and did a great job on him. I mean, over the last several games, dude, 5 blocks in this one, 4 stocks last game, 4 stocks last game, 3 stocks the game before that. He's been remarkable, but offensively, it's just brutal. He was 1 of 5 inside 8 feet tonight, Logan. Like the inconsistency as a finisher, the trepidation that you see at times, and then every post touch, it's just like, oh man, he's going to shoot a sort of spastic hook. If he's up against a defender who matches him in terms of size, like he's just going to miss. He's 9 of 32 outside the restricted area this series. That's just inexcusable. That's where the lack of development just kills you. And he's not supposed to be holding things down as your lone big, but he is right now. And he's done his job defensively, but he hasn't done it offensively. And the reality for the Cavs is you just cannot be playing Marcus Morris 27 minutes and Tristan Thompson 12 minutes and George Niang legitimate minutes in a playoff game in game 6. Like Jared Allen goes down and Dean Wade is hurt and your depth is just awful. And of course it was bad last year, but I thought it was improved. But now, like when you actually are missing a couple guys, it gets real ugly again real fast. So I do just feel bad for Donovan Mitchell, even though he hasn't been his best throughout this series, because he was in this game. And this Cavs team will have the full conversation once their season is over, but it's just been so underwhelming, and it's so clear that they need to make major changes.
And they just didn't address them enough in the offseason, man.
Yeah,
there's a long way to go. And the thing with this too,
long way to
dude,
go.
you just don't want Donovan Mitchell getting frustrated, man. You know, we've heard the bubblings. You know, we heard it back in Utah. We've heard it a little bit here in Cleveland, man. When does it become, too much for him to endure? Cleveland just has to get more impactful players, more impactful role players. They got to get more guys who are just offensively inclined, man. Like another guy who can go get his own shot. It's too much,
Oh
man.
my God.
Too much.
Logan,
please lay it on me. Lay it on me.
I just found the most depressing stat. The Cavs are averaging 0.62 points per spot up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That is unsurprisingly the worst number in the field. When your spot up shooting is worse than the Orlando Magic, that tells you something. And shout out Max Strus, bro. At least he's made his spot up jumpers at a decent clip throughout this series and defended well. But It's been brutal, man. Brutal. So game 7, what's your gut feeling there? Just real quick.
Give me Orlando, honestly. I don't know. I'm just going to stick with my gut. I took Orlando at the top of the series. I'll stick with them. And I just want to hear that song one more time, man.
Orlando Magic. Yeah, that'd be great. The Magic have awesome vibes. And I think that they're going to be a real factor in the East for a long time. I want to hold out my answer until we know if Jared Allen is playing, but I'm not a coward, so I won't. If Jared Allen was playing, I would pick the Cavs with some confidence. Orlando has just been better over these last 4 games. They have. Like, they've had clearly 2 of the 3 best offensive players. They've been more consistent defensively and in the effort categories. They've gotten better spot up shooting, but also the home team has won every game. And with Jared Allen on the floor, then I think that formula is great for them defensively because he and Mobley can both guard the wings and they can both protect the rim. Like, their outlook just changes. You're playing shitty basketball players less. You don't have to play Tristan Thompson at all. Tristan Thompson, who got a couple post touches in this game. Like, what the hell? Sometimes I do wonder, like, why do they run actions for these guys? Like, these absolute, no offense, bums. It's just so strange to me, the Cleveland Cavaliers as a basketball team. I'm going to pick them either way because I do think that home court advantage has clearly mattered in this series, and against a young team that very much feeds off of energy like Orlando, I do think that home court advantage matters a bit more than usual, and I think we've seen that in this series. And Donovan Mitchell should be the best player on the floor. I believe that he will be, probably, but it's not impossible that it could be Paolo or it could be Franz, and I trust both those guys more than I trust Darius Garland right now. So this game to me is damn near a toss-up. If Allen doesn't play, if Allen does play, then I think that I would lean Cleveland sort of solidly, but I still wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, it's probably going to come down to who shoots better between the Max Struses and the Jonathan Isaacs of the world. That very well could be the deciding factor.
Yeah, honestly, it could with the shooting variance in this series, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe,
it's going to
maybe
be
whoever
fun.
makes more threes. It is going to be fun.
I wonder if they'll find a way to put the lone game 7, the only game on Sunday on NBA TV. Do you think they could do it for the Cavs Magic series?
What does
that level of disrespect?
What does that even mean?
Well, it's one of my classic Jets slogan because the whole joke being, "Oh, this series is so ugly. This is the most prototypical NBA TV series."
Honestly, it's been fun. Like, it's been ugly.
This was the best
fun,
game,
though, for sure.
This was the best game. All right, speaking of ugly, Logan, let's talk about this Drake Kendrick shit. So obviously, this has been going on for a while now, right? We have Kendrick on Like That, and then we have Drake drops the 2 tracks, one of which is AI, and then we have Kendrick drops the 2 tracks. Now today, Drake drops, and then Kendrick drops. Drake strongly implies that Kendrick has some domestic violence history that the public is unaware of. Kendrick then, beyond strongly implies, just says that Drake is hiding another child, an 11-year-old girl, apparently. What's your reaction to all of that, man? Let's talk hip hop.
I think Kendrick put Drake in a body bag, and the biggest thing wasn't even just that, he said he had another daughter too. Dude, Kendrick basically just said, everything about you is phony. You are a fake piece of shit. Everything about you, your how you talk, how people, how you look, like talking about the abs, man, talking about his personality, how he talks. He called him a big fat phony. Like,
yeah.
And I thought Drake tried to get a little too like hit makey with it, man. I don't know, like
vibe.
Kendrick's was crafted. It was all about him. You know what I mean? And then you got Drake for a portion of the song just calling Kendrick short, man. I don't know. Like, this is probably the best thing that's happened in the rap game for a little bit, dude. I said earlier that I didn't really care. This has gotten really interesting. I think Kendrick won, man. And I think he just cut him deep, man. The fake shit is real. Like, I mean, he said everything about you is fake, Drake. And that to me is what it is. Is like, I just feel like people inherently, I don't want to talk for everybody or speak for everybody. Kendrick's real. You know what I mean? There's something real about Kendrick. And he's basically saying that Drake's fake, man. He's a faker.
Yeah, Kendrick has pretty consistently cooked. I feel like when we had a brief conversation about Euphoria at first, I sort of undersold how much I liked it because I focused on the fact that I don't like when he talks like a little baby toddler and like sometimes he does weird stuff with his voice that I don't like. But the substance of it, he absolutely cooked him. Toronto accent, hilarious. Crody, dude, that shit killed me. And just barred him up, bro. The bar about Sexy Red. When I see you stand by Sexy Red, I'm going to read it like it's a spoken word poem. No, actually, I'm not. I'm going to do it like Kendrick. When I see you stand by Sexy Red, I believe you see two bad bitches. That's basically how he says it. I believe you don't like women. It's real competition. You might pop ass with them. That's like the funniest shit I've ever heard. Drake really is like Sexy Red. Like there's really nothing else that needs to be said. He just absolutely cooked him, bro. Cooked him. And I really liked the other song that he dropped today as well. But then I will say, if what Drake said about him is true, that's pretty disturbing. And I think that's kind of getting overlooked, at least based on what I've seen, because it's Kendrick and everybody loves Kendrick no matter what. But like, if he has domestic violence history that the public doesn't know about, like, that's absolutely horrible. And Drake just unveiling that, like, would be super damaging. And I don't know how you can look at that and be like, oh, Kendrick won. Like, now it's just gotten dark, dude. Like, they are digging up more than dirt, like legitimately awful things about each other, neglecting and hiding children and abusing your loved ones.
Oh no, I mean it's gotten
Crazy.
serious, and if that's true, it directly undermines everything that Kendrick said in Meet the Grams about Drake, because the majority of it is him talking about how, Drake isn't virtuous and how,
Exactly.
His morals. That's the
You have
main
to come from
focus
a
of it.
moral high ground for that to
And
work.
exactly, and his character. And if this is true, it almost negates one another. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's gotten nasty, and I don't feel like we're done, Carson. I feel like it's gonna get nastier.
What else can be said? What else can be said, bro? This is the most heinous shit that's been unveiled. Like, obviously, Pusha had child reveal number 1. How much further can you get than child reveal number 2? I don't know, dude, but I will say Kendrick was hyping me up when he kept on hitting over the first 2 diss tracks, like, do you want to play Have You Ever? And now he didn't actually use that. It would have been cool if he incorporated that, but I guess he hit him with the Have You Ever hidden a child twice. Answer for Drake, yes. Also, just the framing of Meet the Grams is crazy, bro. He addresses his son, he addresses his mother outright. Like, that is so personal, bro. Like, that is such real bad blood that these two have.
Bro, his pops too. He talked about his pops. He talked about his girl. He talked about his mama. He talked about his son. I mean,
crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
Drake hit the I showed my dick online bar though. Did you catch that one?
Nah, I don't know if I saw that one. It was the new one.
Yeah, the one that Drake dropped tonight. He had some bar in there about how fuck the big 3. It's just Big D, and then there's proof online or something like that was the bar.
Corny.
I mean, bro, listen, I think Drake's done his job. I actually think Drake has written some pretty good stuff.
Hold up.
I didn't like the AI.
Drake's, you mean Drake's people wrote it?
Well, who knows? Who knows? 1v20. I just hate that he used AI though. And it's not some shit like, oh, it's too far. No, it's weird. It's weird, bro. Why are you using other people's likeness? This is a personal beef. Own it. Your bars. Probably,
maybe for clips. The one thing that was funny about that too, dude, was it was just Tupac sounding like Drake. It was in the Drake cadence with the Drake and flow. And I'm like, dude, this doesn't even sound like Tupac.
Yeah, that was weird.
I'm just glad that your boy J. Cole pulled his card out of this race before it got dirty.
Dude, let me just say, J. Cole is coming clean as a Jehovah's Witness out of this, man. He is just doing his thing, peaceful, promoting love. That's another funny thing. Kendrick keeps on talking about he's about peace. And, well, hopefully the domestic violence stuff isn't true. That's obviously just horrible. But he's definitely come out pretty aggressive, pretty hard in this one. It is also interesting, like, are we going to get these claims verified, or are these guys just going to say crazy shit about each other? Like, the fallout of this is going to be interesting because as of now, at least I haven't seen like confirmation of these things would be wild if they were just making stuff up. I highly doubt that that's the case, in which case, holy shit, they both dropped the fucking nukes. And that's why I don't know what's left. That's where, like, you hope it doesn't escalate further. I really don't think it will. I think there's zero chance. But yeah, this has gotten really ugly.
Drake versus Kendrick boxing match.
That would be the lamest way for this all to end, bro. Seeing 5'7" Kendrick go in the ring against Drake, who I just know would like hit some move called the Tweedledee and like shimmy before they fought. And he'd probably like sing a hook. He'd probably sing Find Your Love as he made his ring entrance.
His would be choreographed deliberately.
Yeah, bro. I'm sure that he would have some sort of strobe lighting and he'd come out with like a bow on. I don't know. I don't want to see that. Just let them do what they do best and go at it in the studio. But that's been insanely entertaining. So hope you guys enjoyed that if you're into it. Let's see. Is anybody saying anything in the chat? Yeah. It's mostly J. Cole. Okay, all right. No need to take shots at the J. Cole apology. It ends up being the honorable thing to do. All right, guys. We are done here today. We're going to be back tomorrow. We are going to be reacting live after Timberwolves Nuggets. We are also going to preview Mavs Thunder, so stay tuned in for that. If you want more Nerd Sesh content, there is always plenty of it. All of our full shows on YouTube, breakout clips as well, specific segments from the show, in-depth video breakdowns. You can listen to the show across audio platforms. You can follow us across social to see our trivia content, TikTok, Instagram at Nerd Sesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. And you can buy our merch if you want at thevolume.com. Get that hat right off Logan's head. You can also join our Discord if you want. That link is at the link tree across our social media bios. And all right, more shots of J. Cole in the chat. Unwarranted, gentlemen. Unwarranted. Let's face it. J. Cole was lame in this whole thing. The diss track wasn't good. But the apology, the more distance I get from it, I'm cool with it.
You know what, man? And it was heartfelt. J. Cole meant that, man.
He was like, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. And it seemed really ass. But then when you see how ugly it gets, it's like, dude, if you didn't want to be part of this, like, you shouldn't have ever dropped the track, of course. You shouldn't have ever done that. But I don't think it's super embarrassing to have that sobering moment. I definitely don't think it's as embarrassing removed from it as it seemed and as it was treated as it was at first. All right, guys. That's actually going to do it. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.